Every year, hundreds of colossal ships, some stretching nearly 1,000 feet long and weighing over 40,000 tons of steel, set out on the final journey of their lives. But instead of docking at glamorous ports, they're steered straight onto the muddy shores of South Asia. There, thousands of workers, armed with nothing more than 5,400 degrees Fahrenheit cutting torches and earning less than $4 a day, wait to dismantle them. These once majestic floating cities are sliced apart, piece by piece, steel plates, compartments, pipelines, until they vanish as if they were never there. Over 90% of a ship's materials can be recycled, but the cost comes in the form of extreme danger and grueling labor. To understand why these massive vessels are scrapped, we need to look at the full life cycle of the global shipping industry. Today, the world's commercial fleet boasts over 100,000 ships. Each year, roughly 2,700 new vessels are launched, while 400 to 500 older ships are retired. A ship can operate efficiently for about 25 to 30 years, but after that, maintenance costs skyrocket. Constant exposure to salt water slowly eats away at the steel hull, while cargo holds, engines, and critical machinery degrade, making the ship unsafe. On top of that, international regulations now require ships to cut sulfur emissions, pushing many older vessels into legal obsolescence. Sometimes, it's not just age or regulations that retire a ship, sudden accidents can force them out of service. Collisions, groundings, fires, or catastrophic mechanical failures can make repairs so costly that dismantling becomes the only option. This raises a big question: where do these giant vessels go when their time is up? Are they taken apart at sea, using advanced salvage operations with cranes, robots, and computer simulations? Or are they simply towed onto land, to the wide, muddy beaches of South Asia, where labor is cheap and the demand for scrap steel is enormous? In reality, most ships at the end of their life make a final journey to one of three legendary shipbreaking yards: Alang in India, Chittagong in Bangladesh, and Gadani in Pakistan. Together, these yards handle nearly 70% of the world's shipbreaking. Every year, hundreds of ships are driven directly onto a 6-mile stretch of coastline, forming a massive, open-air assembly line for dismantling. Chittagong is famous for its beaching technique, using the full power of the tides to push massive hulls onto shore. Gadani, once the fastest shipbreaking hub on the planet, carries its own high-risk reputation. Despite differences in size and method, all three share the same mission: strip tens of thousands of tons of steel and return it to the global economy. Before cutting begins, a ship is first assessed for value. Scrap traders or shipbreaking companies examine two key factors: the total amount of recoverable steel and the current market price. A typical cargo ship can fetch $3 to $6 million in scrap, while cruise ships can be worth even more, thanks to their stainless steel, copper wiring, aluminum, and costly interior fixtures. Ship dismantling generally serves two purposes: breaking the vessel into scrap or recovering valuable components for reuse. Most steel, copper, aluminum, electrical cables, propellers, shafts, and machinery are salvaged, giving these once mighty ships a second life in new industries. Meanwhile, highly valuable components, like engines, navigation systems, hydraulic pumps, and generators, are carefully removed, inspected, and often resold to smaller ships or local industries. In this way, before a ship is ever sliced into steel sections, it has already fulfilled one last economic purpose: supplying raw materials and parts to countless industries. Once the final inspection is complete and the sale paperwork signed, the ship begins the final leg of its journey. No longer able to move under its own power, it's guided by a fleet of tugboats toward the scrapping yard. Timing is everything. The critical maneuver happens during the few hours of high tide. As the rising water lifts the massive hull, tugboats can control its direction, guiding it so the ship slides onto the beach with precision. If the calculations are off, the vessel could get stuck offshore or drift dangerously off course, creating massive challenges for the operation. But when executed correctly, the ship glides onto the sand under its own momentum and comes to rest. As the tide falls, the hull settles firmly, revealing the massive underside that has been hidden beneath the waves for decades. At this moment, the ship transforms from a mighty vehicle of the sea into a steel giant waiting to be taken apart. In the months that follow, hundreds of workers move through every compartment, tearing the ship down from the inside out. The first step is clearing the interior. Doors, tables, chairs, lighting, stainless steel railings, decorative panels, wiring, and ventilation systems are all removed. Each item is examined to see if it can be reused or sold. For cruise ships, this process is far more intricate. Theaters, cinemas, gyms, pools, bars, and hundreds of cabins must be stripped by hand. High-value items like industrial kitchens, sound systems, and AC units are removed intact and sold to new owners. Once the interior is cleared, the environmental handling team steps in, preparing the vessel for the next stage of dismantling. Next, the environmental team takes over, pumping out leftover fuel, treating sludge, wastewater, and any chemicals trapped in tanks or pipelines. This is a critical step. Any leftover flammable gas or oil could turn a single spark from a cutting torch into a deadly explosion. Once fully cleared, the ship stands as nothing more than a bare steel skeleton, ready for the heaviest and most dangerous task, cutting the hull. Hull cutting is the heart of the shipbreaking process. Workers build scaffolding, mark precise cutting lines, and wield oxyacetylene torches that burn hotter than 3,000 degrees Celsius to slice through steel plates nearly 3 centimeters thick. Each cut separates massive sections of steel weighing several tons, carefully rigged with cables before being dropped onto the sand by gravity. The metallic crash echoes across the yard. Another piece of the ship is gone. Tractors then drag these enormous sections deeper into the yard to be cut down into smaller, manageable pieces. Teams of steel cutters, transport crews, and cable recovery workers labor continuously, working to reclaim as much material as possible. Depending on the size of the vessel, this stage can take months, or even over a year. Despite how methodical it might sound, shipbreaking is extremely hazardous. Workers often endure 12 to 16-hour days, earning just $3 to $4. They face constant threats: falling steel, slips from heights, explosions caused by leftover oil, or breathing in asbestos dust, which can cause permanent lung damage. Safety equipment is often scarce, and medical care is limited. Since the late 1960s, nearly 2,000 serious accidents have been officially recorded, though the real number is likely much higher, as many migrant workers remain undocumented. International organizations have pushed for safer working conditions, but progress has been slow. Shipbreaking is still heavily reliant on human labor rather than machines, and that dependence keeps danger ever present. Beyond the shipbreaking yards, life is just as harsh. Many workers live in makeshift shelters with no access to clean water or proper sanitation. The grueling, unpredictable nature of their work keeps them trapped in this dangerous job for years, with little opportunity for education, health insurance, or alternative careers. What has kept this industry alive for more than 50 years is the incredible economic value of recycled steel. Every ship, dismantled piece by piece, becomes a treasure trove of resources: steel plates, pipe sections, and structural frames, all ready to be melted down and reused. A medium-sized cargo ship can yield 10,000 to 25,000 tons of steel, while a massive cruise ship can produce over 40,000 tons. This reclaimed steel is sent to furnaces and reborn as billets, rebar, steel plates, and countless materials used in construction, bridges, roads, and other infrastructure. Recycling steel isn't just profitable, it's environmentally powerful. It saves up to 70% of the energy required to make steel from raw ore and cuts CO2 emissions significantly. And steel isn't the only resource salvaged. Copper wiring, aluminum railings, brass propellers, and stainless steel from industrial kitchens are all recovered at high rates. Even mechanical components like compressors, generators, pumps, and navigation systems are inspected and sold for reuse. A ship that seems to have reached the end of its life can still generate millions of dollars in materials and equipment, giving its parts a new journey in entirely different projects. Shipbreaking is often called a triumph of recycling in the circular economy. Steel is recovered, resources are conserved, and global emissions are reduced. But the story isn't entirely green. Sometimes, the environment pays a steep price. But sometimes, the cost of shipbreaking shows up somewhere else. At these yards, the price is no longer just dollars, it's measured in soil, water, air, and human lives. A single ship can contain dozens of hazardous substances: asbestos in piping, lead-based paint on the hull, PCBs, heavy metals, residual oil in tanks, and even biological waste from cruise ship sanitation systems. If these materials aren't handled carefully, they can seep into the ground or flow into the ocean, causing contamination that lasts for decades. In areas surrounding shipbreaking yards, levels of heavy metals often far exceed safe limits. Fish populations collapse, marine life declines sharply, land becomes degraded, and local communities face serious health problems. The widely used beaching method, while cheap and efficient, magnifies these environmental impacts because dismantling happens on open beaches with little to no proper waste management. Not all ships can be treated this way. Some require extreme precautions and specialized handling. Nuclear submarines, for example, contain reactors, fuel rods, and radioactive cooling systems, all of which are highly dangerous if dismantled incorrectly. Only the United States, Russia, and the United Kingdom currently have the expertise to safely break down these vessels. Even then, a single submarine can take 10 to 15 years to fully dismantle. Recognizing these risks, the world has started tightening regulations. The Hong Kong Convention of 2009 set international standards for safe and environmentally sound ship recycling, though it won't officially come into force until 2025. On top of international rules, the European Union now requires that ships flying the EU flag be dismantled only at approved, certified facilities. Every ship carries a piece of the ocean story, years spent slicing through waves, hauling cargo, and carrying people to destinations they had never imagined. But when that journey ends, the steel doesn't vanish. On the shipbreaking beaches of South Asia, hundreds of workers labor day and night, cutting apart massive steel plates and returning materials to the world that will live on in bridges, factories, industrial zones, and sometimes even new ships. This life cycle, fraught with danger, controversy, and hardship, remains a crucial part of the global economy. It's a reminder that the end of a machine isn't a loss, it's the beginning of something new, stronger, and quieter. If you want to uncover more hidden engineering stories behind the world's greatest structures, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you won't miss the journeys ahead.